Today we are looking into paragraph writing. Paragraph writing. We note that when you're asked to write an essay, you are expected to write it in paragraphs. And each paragraph contains certain piece of information that should be shared within its confine. But despite that, let's look at what paragraph is. You can say that paragraph is a group of related sentences that express a unit of meaning. It is a group of related sentences that express a group of meaning, meaning that the sentences in a paragraph must relate. They must have a relationship, and that relationship makes them to focus on a single goal. That's the goal of a paragraph. It makes them to focus on a single goal. So a paragraph is a group of related sentences that express a unit of meaning. And all the sentences within the confine of a paragraph focus on a single goal, which is the goal of the paragraph. And the goal of the paragraph is to discuss a single idea in a meaningful way. The goal of the paragraph is to discuss a single idea in a meaningful way. It does not extend or contain any extraneous piece of information because a paragraph is meant to focus on a single goal. So each of the sentences in the paragraph makes a contribution towards the main idea. You may have 4 sentences, 5, 10, up to 20 sentences or more. But one thing is that all of them must contribute towards the main idea. They must all focus on the goal of the paragraph. Therefore, any sentence that does not relate to the main idea of the paragraph must not be included in the paragraph. No matter how much you love that sentence or that sentence interests you, as long as it does not contribute to the main idea of the paragraph, it has no business in such paragraph. So all the sentences in the paragraph focus, all of them focus on a single idea. So there's an example below in the paragraph. Then examine all the sentences in that paragraph. Let's look at the paragraph. The use of abusive language has been the source of most of domestic violence, which is a potential threat to the peace of a nation. Many have been the victims of verbal abuse from their cradle, and that has made them inured to the abuse and to see it as part of their social practices. Verbal abuse, especially name calling, pervades different areas of society, from home to school to workplace and religious settings. It characterizes the language used by social migrants and transport hawkers in most of Nigerian motor parks, where it is seen as a form of compliments in most cases. Some ethnic groups in Nigeria take pleasure in name calling as part of their cultural heritage. The negative effect of verbal abuse is felt mostly in homes where the victims suffer psychological trauma and accept the negative label of the abuse as their identity. That is the paragraph. In this paragraph now, let's look at what is the main idea of the paragraph. What is the main idea of the paragraph? Looking at it, let's look at the first sentence, whether it will fit in. Say, the use of abusive language has been the source of most of domestic violence, which is a potential threat to the peace of a nation. here. Are we talking about abusive language? Yes. And it is stated that it is a great source of domestic violence. And domestic violence is a potential threat to the peace of a nation. So that place tells us that the whole paragraph is talking about abusive language. Then other sentences go on to explain, expatiate, discuss, and give us different aspects or types of abusive language. Here talks about the verbal abuse, which is also known as name calling. And looking at the final sentence, we mentioned that is a source of domestic violence, which has a negative consequence. The final sentence says the negative effects of verbal abuse is felt mostly in homes where the victims suffer psychological trauma and accept the negative label of the abuse as their identity. Meaning that the whole focus will be trimmed down to the effect of the abuse, especially the verbal abuse. And verbal abuse is a form of abusive language because it's the verbal form. So, paragraph has three parts. A paragraph has three parts. We have a topic sentence, supporting sentences, and a concluding sentence. A topic sentence, supporting sentences, and a concluding sentence. So these three parts are connected to construct a unit of meaning known as the paragraph. So we look at each of them, starting with topic sentence. Topic sentence expresses the main idea in the paragraph. Topic sentence expresses the main idea in the paragraph. What you need to understand about the paragraph is couched in the topic sentence. And topic sentence does two things. It mentions the main idea and narrows it down to the topic, to a fragment that can be discussed within a paragraph. It introduces or mentions the main idea and narrows down that topic to a fragment that can be discussed within a paragraph. Meaning that in a topic sentence, topic will be mentioned. And that topic is the main idea to be discussed. And the topic has to be narrowed down to a perspective, to an angle in which the discussion will be made. For example, we said that topic mentions the main idea to be discussed in the paragraph. Topic mentions the main idea to be discussed in a paragraph. But the controlling idea identifies the aspect of the topic to be discussed, meaning that it is not possible at times to discuss everything about a topic in an essay or a paragraph. But controlling idea will point to the perspective or angle from which the topic will be discussed in the paragraph. For example, here we have basic education is essential for a successful nation. Basic education is essential for a successful nation. Looking at this place, basic education is in bold form. That's the topic. What we are discussing in that paragraph is basic education. From what angle? The angle is that essential for a successful nation. That's the controlling idea. So when we are looking at the basic education in this paragraph, we are looking at it from the angle, how it functions as an essential ingredient for a successful nation. We are not looking at problem with basic education. We are not looking at how to attain basic education. You are not looking at those, but what we are looking at is basic education as being essential for a successful. That means any nation that will be successful must focus on basic education. But supporting sentences. These sentences gives examples, explanations, and illustrations that are used to develop the topic sentence. The duty of supporting sentences is to develop the topic sentence, supply more information by giving us examples that will justify the topic sentence, explanation of the main issue or idea in the topic sentence, or illustrations, so that the topic sentence can be well developed. People will understand what it's about. Also, supporting sentences provide more information to prove that the point in the topic sentence is correct. It supplies more information to prove the point in the topic sentence. Each of the sentences in the supporting sentence will give you several pieces of information, and all of them must contribute towards the main goal of the paragraph, of the topic sentence. Also, they give necessary details about the topic sentence without introducing another point. Note this. Supporting sentences give necessary details about the topic sentence, but they will not introduce another point, because that is not what they are meant to do. So everything you have in your supporting sentences must contribute towards realizing the goal of the topic sentence. Now, concluding sentence. A concluding sentence indicates the end of a paragraph. It indicates the end of it. That is, it shows that the paragraph has come to an end. It also leaves the reader with a message to remember. It does not only tell us that the paragraph has come to an end, it also tells us that, give us something to remember on the paragraph. So it can be written as a summary of all the sentences in the paragraph, or paraphrase the topic sentence in either way. Could be summary of everything that we have discussed in the paragraph, or paraphrase of the topic sentence. So the three parts are identified in the sentence below. Just observe their relationship. Okay. Abuse that can be categorized as being metaphorical is verbal abuse, which is uttering of hurtful words to attack the personality of the abused. In most cases, it precedes physical violence because it is a form of domestic violence. In verbal abuse, words or utterances are used as weapons of attack on the abused. The purpose of the abuse is to attack the nature and ability of the abused. Verbal abuse is characterized by a force which strengthens its offensive attack. The force of verbal abuse includes countering, accusing, blaming, threatening, judging, and criticizing. These constitute different speech acts that verbal abuse can perform. So looking at the paragraph, the topic sentence is in bold form, which we take to be abuse that can be categorized as being metaphorical is verbal abuse, which is uttering of hurtful words to attack the personality of the abused. So that's our topic sentence. The whole paragraph is about abuse that is metaphorical in nature. And that abuse is justified as verbal abuse. And the meaning of verbal abuse is also stated in that place. But supporting sentences are in red. Look at it. In most cases, by this one is precede domestic violence because it's a form of domestic violence. It shows us how it happens. It happens in some cases before domestic violence erupts. In verbal abuse, words and utterances are used as weapons. That's another illustration that words are seen as weapons of attack. Then, purpose of abuse is to attack. It's also justifying the purpose. Verbal abuse is characterized by a force which strengthens its offensive attack, still contributing to the nature of attack on the verbal abuse. The force of verbal abuse includes different effects. It's stated there. But the concluding sentence is in italics. These constitute different speech acts that verbal abuse can perform. Everything stated is summarized as a form of action that verbal abuse can perform. So, in a paragraph, you should be able to identify the topic sentence, which will state the main idea, the main issue of the paragraph, then supporting sentences, which justifies or expatiate or supply more information on the main idea of the sentence, and also the concluding sentence, which actually state the end of the paragraph. So these are crucial in the structure of a paragraph. Thank you.